This is a gripping and methodically paced piece of narrative prose, part confession, part quiet revenge fantasy, layered with emotional detachment, psychological clarity, and subtle triumph. The writing balances introspection with tactical action, painting a picture of a man whose quiet suffering transforms into carefully plotted liberation. Some strengths and observations. Strengths: tone and voice, calm, deliberate, and controlled, which amplifies the emotional impact of the protagonist's internal transformation. Symbolism: the loser of the house t-shirt, the ticking clock, the coffee, and the quiet cafe all serve as potent metaphors for awakening, detachment, and control. Structure and flow: the linear unraveling of events from personal betrayal to corporate fallout is well-paced and cinematic. Characterization: Marissa is rendered sharply without caricature, ambitious, superficial, and ultimately undone by her own overconfidence. The narrator's passive exterior conceals a strategic mind, revealed gradually. Opportunities for refinement, length, and repetition. The piece borders on being too long for a single sitting. Some emotional beats, like Marissa's downfall, are repeated and could be tightened without losing impact. Dialogue: some of Marissa's lines, "Don't wait up," etc., tread close to trope territory. A touch more nuance or subversion could deepen the realism. Emotional complexity: while the protagonist's clarity is a strength, adding moments of doubt or flashes of old affection, even if fleeting, could humanize him further and complicate the narrative in a meaningful way. She was handed a single cardboard box. No 1743 farewell party, no gold watch, no hollow speeches about new beginnings. Just a box, and a growing audience pretending not to stare as she walked down the hallway she once commanded. Humiliated. Meanwhile, I sat in my home office, drink in hand, watching it unfold on the hidden security cameras I'd installed months ago, cameras she never noticed, never cared to ask about. It was almost poetic. The woman who craved the spotlight reduced to a silent movie on my screen. At exactly 3:14 p.m., I saw her stumble through the front door. Wind-tangled hair, mascara smudged, her power shoes scuffed as she dragged the box inside. Still wearing the t-shirt from the night before, loser of the house. I leaned back, feeling no triumph. No gloating, just a quiet, resolute calm. This wasn't revenge, this wasn't cruelty, this was consequence. She dropped the box onto the couch with a hollow thud and stood there, swaying like someone waking from a nightmare. She looked around, maybe for me. Maybe hoping I'd swoop in and fix everything. But no one came. She stared at her phone, then threw it across the room. It bounced off a cushion with a soft, impotent thump. I didn't move, didn't call. She was beyond my help. Every lie she told, every manipulation, every time she treated me like background noise, she paved this road. Brick by brick, all I did was let her walk it. On the screen, she crumpled beside the couch, face buried in her hands. Her shoulders shook. I muted the sound. I didn't need to hear her to know. Fear. Loneliness. The crushing realization that the world she built was made of paper, not stone. Then came the knock. Marissa stormed to my office door like the woman who once held every key. But it didn't budge. I had changed the lock weeks ago. She banged on it, shouted my name, demanded I open up. Once, that voice would have broken me. Not anymore. I let her voice echo down the hallway like distant thunder. When she gave up, she went around to the back entrance, through the kitchen. That's when she saw the divorce papers, sitting neatly on the marble counter right beside, the last slice of cake from the night before. "Congratulations, Marissa," smeared into oblivion. She picked up the papers with shaking hands, eyes scanning the page. She dropped them like they were on fire. I knew what she'd do next. Try to regroup, call her parents, her sister. that lawyer friend she always bragged about. But upstairs, the truth hit harder. She had nothing left. The house she weaponized in every argument, no longer hers. Months ago, I moved it into a private trust, legally airtight, invisible to her. She never noticed. Our joint accounts, emptied, reinvested under my name, all legal, all meticulous. She never cared for the details. "Money is boring," she said. No, Marissa. It was fatal. When it sank in, she collapsed again, this time on the kitchen floor, papers scattered around her like dead leaves. Her sobs echoed through the feed. Once, that sound would have shattered me. But I felt nothing. No rage, no satisfaction, just justice. I thought of all the times I stood right there, begging to be heard, laughed at in front of friends, dismissed like I didn't matter. And now she sat in the ruins of the life she built on my back. Eventually, her sobs faded into silence. I watched her slump against the island, mascara streaks down her cheeks. Her phone buzzed from the couch. She didn't move. For a moment, I wondered if she'd rally. That old manipulative spark, a final twist of the knife. But she didn't. She just sat there, small, diminished, human. I stood and walked to the door, stepping outside for the first time in hours. The evening air was cool, the sky a deep, bruised violet. I inhaled, clearing out the last remnants of the man I used to be. Inside the house, Marissa was still crumbling. Outside, I had already begun to rebuild. Not with her, not for her. Absolutely. Here's a rewritten version of your piece that retains its depth and emotional impact while streamlining the language for flow, clarity, and pacing. This version keeps the core intact, but polishes the structure and voice, ensuring the narrative arc remains powerful and satisfying. Reclamation. It was never just about Marissa. That's the part no one understood. Not her, not her family. Not even some of the people closest to me. They thought I was acting out of spite, trying to get back at the woman who humiliated me. But they didn't know the full story. They hadn't seen the slow, quiet erosion. Not one betrayal, but 1,000 cuts over years. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation, reclaiming the parts of me she tried to erase. Dignity, confidence, self-worth, all buried beneath. Manipulation, sarcasm dressed as banter, and the silence that replaced love. I didn't wake up one day and decide to burn it all down. I'd been rebuilding in secret. It started with the small things, saying no instead of nodding, clearing space in the garage for my own projects, reading the books I'd hidden, taking walks alone. Each quiet decision was a piece of myself returning. Then came the larger moves. Archer Wren, my lawyer, my friend since college, had seen it all. He never pushed, just waited, until I asked, "How do I walk away clean?" He didn't give me pep talks. He gave me a plan. That plan led me to Mateo Sinclair, another old college friend, loud and brilliant, once full of risky ideas and wild dreams. He built a stealthy tech firm, wildly successful, and I was one of his early investors. When I reached out, he didn't ask questions. He offered opportunity, a seat at a new table, quiet ownership of a company with the leverage to eventually acquire the parent of Marissa's firm. Mateo made the introductions. Archer handled the details. And me, I stayed quiet, invisible, underestimated. That was the secret. People like Marissa and Simon Keene never saw me coming. Simon, all bravado and scotch, would pat my shoulder at company parties and joke about my little projects. He never imagined I'd end up signing his checks. When the acquisition closed, I didn't even attend the final meeting. I watched the handshake over a secure video feed, coffee in hand. No fanfare, no fireworks, just business. And that's the thing about real power. It's quiet, measured, final. The documents we sent afterward weren't vengeance. They were truth. Every falsified report, every silenced complaint Marissa buried with charm and intimidation, exposed. The fallout was swift. Her world unraveled under the weight of her own deception. But the biggest shift wasn't public. It was internal. I no longer apologized for taking up space. I remembered what it felt like to stand on solid ground. And the friends who stayed through the silence, they were still here, watching me rise, without ego, without performance. Marissa, meanwhile, was spiraling. The texts started, first erratic, then apologetic. We were partners. How could you abandon everything? She never realized I'd been abandoned long before I walked away. Then her family joined in. Her mother's pleas, her father's command. Man up and fix this. They didn't get it. They thought the tragedy was her fall from grace. They didn't see what had already died. Trust, partnership, the kind of love that doesn't need an audience. I ignored the calls, let the voicemails pile up like autumn leaves in a forgotten street. I still love you, she wrote. You're still my husband. But those words didn't break me anymore. They barely scratched the surface. I watched the sunrise from my balcony, gold and clean, as if daring me to believe in beginnings again. I wasn't angry. I was simply done. She sent old photos, memories dressed in nostalgia, hoping I'd forget the shadows behind them. But I remembered everything. The fights passed off as jokes, the silence used like a knife. And the good parts, they weren't enough anymore. Her entourage faded. The applause stopped. She wasn't built for silence, and it crushed her. One day, I saw her parked outside my building, watching, waiting. I didn't stop. I didn't acknowledge her. That evening, the final message came. I don't know who I am without you. For a moment, I felt something stir, pity maybe. But it passed. Because she never wanted me. She wanted someone she could shape. She wanted a mirror, not a partner. And I wasn't coming back. The divorce was ugly. Of course it was. She fought it like she climbed the corporate ladder, viciously. But I wasn't unprepared. I had receipts, months, years of quiet documentation. Every careless word, every fabricated number, notarized and archived. She thought drama could override truth. It couldn't. When her lies were exposed in court, her mask cracked. The judge saw it. Everyone did. Her tears were too late. The ruling was final, swift and brutal. The house? Mine. The assets? Protected. Her debt? Hers alone. As I stood to leave the courtroom, Archer handed me a small box. Inside were the things she was allowed to keep. A pair of sunglasses, some towels, and on top, folded neatly, a t-shirt. Loser of the house. The one she'd given me the night our marriage died. I left it on the bench. I didn't need it. Outside, the sun was blinding, the air sharp and clean. I walked forward, and I didn't look back. 6 months later, a new penthouse, a new morning, coffee in hand, city skyline glittering before me. Freedom doesn't announce itself. It builds, quietly, stubbornly, one breath at a time. The business I built, steady and strong, thrives. My circle is smaller, realer, grounded. I don't chase applause anymore. My success doesn't need a stage. It's in every quiet win, every steady step forward, every breath unburdened. Marissa remains a name in a chapter I've closed. And me? I'm not the man she married. I'm the man I was always meant to be. There were a few, Mateo, Sinclair, Archer, Wren, who stayed. Not because they needed something, but because they saw me, even when I wasn't trying to be seen. The kind of friendships that don't unravel when scandal brushes the edges of your life. The kind that endure. I sipped my coffee and thought about love. People asked, friends, family. even strangers at networking events. Their voices always low, curious. Seeing anyone yet? Back on the market? I'd smile, polite, non-committal, just focusing on myself right now. It wasn't that I had shut love out. Not exactly. But real love. The kind that doesn't come with conditions buried in compliments or loyalty offered in exchange for status, felt sacred now. It deserved patience, respect. It deserved the version of me who had walked through fire and come out not bitter, but better. Maybe someday. But not today. Today was for breathing. For feeling the weightlessness of a life I'd rebuilt with my own hands. For standing on my own 2 feet, no strings, no apologies. Sometimes memories still crept in. Ghosts in a scent, a song, a familiar street corner. Good ones, painful ones. I didn't fight them. I let them pass through me like waves. They didn't own me anymore. Marissa's name still floated around, spoken in passing by people who didn't know how to say less. Whispers of a smaller job, mounting debt, quiet speculation. Would she bounce back? Would she find herself? I never joined in. I didn't need to. That chapter was closed, a book I had no desire to reopen. I turned from the balcony and stepped inside. The penthouse was open, bright, full of things I'd chosen deliberately. The reclaimed wood dining table I built myself, the leather chair, molded to my frame, photographs from solo journeys, every corner a mirror of freedom. Nothing here was meant to impress. It was mine. There were no trophies on the walls. I didn't need them anymore. I had something better. Peace. My days looked different now. Mornings for long walks through the city, ducking into bookstores, and quiet cafes. Afternoons for mentoring young entrepreneurs, the kind I once was, hungry, underestimated. Evenings were for small joys, a good book, a home-cooked meal, music humming between solitude and serenity. And nights. Nights were for dreaming, not the desperate kind of dreams born from proving yourself, but the soft, steady ones that come from knowing who you are. I wasn't chasing anymore. I was living. There's a strength in that, a quiet invincibility, one that comes from surviving and still choosing softness, from knowing that healing doesn't mean forgetting the pain, it means recognizing the scars as proof you endured. Marissa once called me the loser of the house. Maybe she believed it. Maybe for a while I did too. But as I stood there, coffee cooling in my hand, the city glowing beneath me, I knew the truth. She never saw me. Not really. She saw a placeholder, a trophy, a man who wouldn't fight back. Not the man who would rise from the ashes she left behind. I walked through the space, bare feet against cool floors, pausing by the window overlooking the river, sunlight catching on the water like scattered diamonds. There was no applause, no audience, just my heartbeat, steady, sure. I was exactly where I was meant to be, no longer defined by the house or the marriage or the labels people had once slapped on me. I was my own man. Then, one rainy afternoon, a package arrived. No return address, just my name, written in careful script on a plain brown box. I almost tossed it with the junk mail. Almost. Something about the handwriting made me pause. I opened it slowly in the kitchen. Inside, a t-shirt. The one. The loser of the house. Underneath, a note, penned in the same hand. You were never the loser. I just couldn't see you. M. I stared at it for a long time, but no fury came. No heartbreak. Just stillness, like the sound of a bell fading in an empty church. The shirt smelled faintly of her perfume. Sharp, floral, unmistakably hers. Once, this would have gutted me. Once, her regret might have felt like rescue. Not anymore. I folded the shirt, walked to the fireplace, and fed it to the flames. No, hesitation, no ritual. The cotton caught instantly, the bold letters curling, blackening, vanishing in a whisper of smoke. I watched until there was nothing left. No anger, no sadness, only peace. That shirt had once been her punchline. Now it was ash. I kept the note, not for sentiment, but because it proved what I already knew. She saw it now. Too late. She lost, not because I was weak, but because I was strong in silence. She played loud and dirty. I played long and clean. And in the end, her kingdom crumbled. Mine stood tall. Checkmate. I sat by the window again, drink in hand, watching the rain blur the city into watercolor. The past 6 months hadn't just been about healing, they'd been about becoming. My life now was intentional, earned, every piece of it chosen. People talk about closure like it's a thunderclap, a final scream, a confrontation. But sometimes, closure is quiet. It's the absence of panic when their name appears. It's the moment you stop needing to be understood by someone who never truly saw you. Her message wasn't an opening. It was a coda. A final nail in the door I sealed shut long ago. Whatever apology she offered, whatever guilt she carried, that was hers, not mine. I didn't need her remorse. I didn't need to be seen by her. I had already seen myself. And that was enough. I thought back to the beginning. That party, the string quartet, the fireworks, me outside, alone, holding a t-shirt tossed like a joke, her laughter echoing from a house I paid for but was never welcome in. That was the night my marriage ended, but it was also the night I began. Marissa chased applause, promotions, shiny things. I built quietly, precisely. She played chess for the spectacle. I played for the win. Now, I didn't need victory. I was the victory, not just in court, not in money or headlines, but in soul. I had rebuilt not just a life, but a self. A man who doesn't beg to be seen. A man who no longer shrinks to fit someone else's spotlight. A man who knows his own worth so deeply that even regret cannot shake him. I rose, poured a drink, and raised it to the room. "To the loser of the house," I whispered, a smile touching my lips. Then, softer, reverent, "To the man who outgrew it." The fire crackled, the rain fell, and the world outside carried, on as unaware that somewhere high above the city, a man had found peace, not through revenge, not through recognition, but through becoming.